There are 1,000,001 details to go over in the newest overview trailer for Pokemon Legends Arceus. So as to not waste any time with introductions, all you need to know before we get started is that my name is johtojonny, and I'm a gaming analyst here on YouTube who currently specializes in Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'm going to dissect all the new info in more detail than anyone else on the tube will do for you. Let's get started. Starting with the general fact about the new footage. I've been seeing a lot of people say that the game looks much more polished now and that it looks better than ever in the newest trailer. I'll introduce you to why this is, and why no one can seem to put their finger on what it is that makes the game look much more smooth and clean. The reasoning is that a moderate amount of anti-aliasing has been applied to the visuals. For those who don't know, anti-aliasing is a method of removing the staircase effect on visuals in a game. The staircase effect essentially refers to the jagged lines that inevitably rear their head when making models in 3D. 3D models tend to have a lot of jagged lines because it is very difficult to make true curves for models without completely tanking the performance of a game. Anti-aliasing blurs the outer lines of models to make them appear rounder and smoother. There is a trade-off for performance, sure, but nowhere near as much as creating true curves for models. There's obviously much more to all this, however, this is the simplest way of explaining it for everyone to understand. The visuals in the newest trailer look better because of anti-aliasing. The best examples of this are the character's model that we see very closely in this shot, this clip of Electivire, as well as this scene of Drifloon, who is completely round. Compare these to older footage, and the difference is subconsciously noticeable. Now, let's take a look at the new trailer in chronological order, going from start to finish in great detail. I'll only be discussing noteworthy scenes, however, there are a lot. This shot of Magikarp in the water is visually pleasing for several reasons. Not only does it show off the new anti-aliasing that I mentioned, but it also showcases a few other clever techniques. The water itself is translucent, meaning we can see through it a bit, giving us a full image of the Magikarp. Yet, the water is also giving us what is called screen space reflections. In other words, you can see the water is reflecting things above itself, including not only the gorgeous mountain ranges in the background, but the Magikarp themselves. As a casual viewer, seeing both the full body of Magikarp through the translucent water, while also seeing its reflection just beneath it, offers a pleasing effect you probably couldn't put your finger on before. Screen space reflections is a rather expensive technique, and I've mentioned before that I'm very happy to see the Pokemon Company using their large sum of money for such a pleasing effect. Beyond that, the Magikarp are actually splashing the water. This is the final step in truly nailing this scene. If you recall, Pokemon Sword and Shield did not have splashing water when the Pokemon moved around in it. Here, in Legends though, this works to fully sell that the Magikarp exists in this world and in the water. The final thing to note that really makes this shot pop is a slight depth of field effect. We get some brilliant elevation and texture in the mountainous background. However, behind, we can see further hills and mountains, blurred to give a sense of distance and mystery. It really begs for you to go explore, right? And explore we shall, in less than a month. The next scene of Turtwig reminds me, Pokemon make unique sounds when walking, both based on what terrain they're crossing and how much they weigh. Compare Turtwig's walking sound to pure uglies in the snow. What kind of feet they have also makes an impact. I talked about this in a previous video, but a Pokemon like Ponyta clearly makes the sound of hooves tapping the ground, as opposed to heavy paws. The next shot of the player character is the first of several shots to reveal something big to us: how much we can control the camera. This shot in particular showcases just how close we can bring the camera to our player. I love this as it helps me get immersed in the game. There are more scenes later that reveal more about the camera control, but we'll talk about those when they come. This shot of Ursaring peeking around the corner with glowing red eyes is intense, to say the least. Sure, to strike fear in anyone, but what makes this even scarier is the lighting from the time of day. Notice how the sun hits the back of Ursaring, flashing light on his tall back, and casting a shadow on the front of him. This causes his red eyes to become even more prominent. Excellent art direction by the developers, if I do say so. I also very much appreciate the twilight coloring on the environment caused by the setting. Truly gorgeous. This next scene shows Hisuian Zoroark attacking us with Shadow Ball. It looks like the ball is actually homing in on us. Good thing we dodged. Also, a friendly reminder of how cool it is that our characters' clothes get frosted in the tundra. This effect also applies to Pokemon, as we've seen in a previous shot of riding Basculegion. There's also something glowing on the ground in the distance. I wonder what this could be, as we haven't seen glowing pickups up close quite yet. Finally, the reticle has been updated yet again for throwing out your Pokemon to fight. It now includes an image of clashing Pokeballs in the center of the Pokeball colored reticle. Nice detail to further help differentiate for the player if they're throwing a ball to catch or throwing a ball to fight. In this scene of the bog, you'll notice a little picket sign in the center here. It probably says the name of the area. Next, in the scene of the snowy waterfall, it's easy to miss. There's a small village here. I don't know about you guys, but this alleviated a lot of worries of the game for me. It looks like we will be finding other settlements throughout the game after all. This clip of Crobat confirms that we can indeed go into caves. We already figured this, but it's nice to have it confirmed. Even cooler though, is that there's apparently an ice cave, as we can see in the scene of Frostlass. I'm excited to explore this one. One of the few worries I still have for Pokemon Legends Arceus is the NPCs. They still seem stiff as ever. The woman is literally sweeping grass. I don't think that's very practical, ma'am. Beyond her, look at everyone else. Standing in one place. What are these guys doing? Standing in one place. What are these boys doing? Standing in one place, on the table. Okay, these sitting poses are kinda cool, but they hardly look like they're even breathing while doing so. What are these ladies doing? Standing in place. What is this entire line of NPCs doing behind our player? Standing in place. Game Freak, I'm over it. Retro design philosophies like stiff NPCs is a relic of the past and needs to stay there. Zelda, Majora's Mask, over 20 years old, figured this out and perfected a baseline for how NPCs should act. At least follow that basic bottom line. This shot of the player walking hides two things in the background. Something purple and something glowing blue. The blue one looks to be one of those collectible stone-like materials, just a version of it we haven't seen yet. However, I'm not sure what this purple thing is. Most likely a collectible, but possibly a Pokemon? This shot of Wurmple shows our inventory in the bottom right includes a citrus berry and a green acorn. The berry has been hinted to help us in luring in Pokemon species for capture. However, apricorns haven't been revealed to have any use outside of crafting Pokeballs, so I'm curious what using it in the overworld will do, if it'll do anything at all. This next scene on the beach hides something red by the water. At first, I wasn't sure if this was a collectible or a Pokemon like Shuckle or something, but we see this appear several times throughout the trailer, so I'm fairly certain it's a collectible shell of some kind. There's also a ball of clay, or rock, in our inventory here. Maybe it's used to fight Pokemon without our actual Pokemon, or once again, maybe it does nothing at all. Our character then goes to talk to Commander Komodo, and yikes. I'm not sure what this graphical issue is with the table in the background as the camera zooms, but I noticed it right away. At the base camp, we have this cool green item in our inventory. I can't wait to find out what this does. I've talked about this before in a hidden footage analysis, but when we catch Pokemon, our Pokemon still gain experience, as we can see here. Afterwards, a neat animation shows the Pokeball and the newly caught Pokemon warping to the player's belt. Neat. The icon that pops up when we caught this Bidoof seems to have been for a quest, as a 1 out of 1 appears unintrusively on screen alongside Bidoof's info. Catching a Bidoof will likely be our first mission in Pokemon Legends Arceus, as we only have a Cyndaquil here, and we know Bidoof lingers just outside of Jubilife Village. He's also not an aggressive Pokemon, so that just further adds to the point. This fight with Growlithe confirms a gameplay mechanic I already inferred would work this way. Down in the bottom right, you can see the player press the X button to switch from usable items, such as Pokeballs, to usable Pokemon to throw out for battle. Now is also a good time to explain that the L and R buttons are used to cycle through not only what usable item we want to use on the fly, but also what Pokemon we want to use. Intuitive. I also want to point out this lone flower back here really stands out. It's probably a collectible material for crafting. Before moving on, it's worth noting that when we threw the Pokeball to catch Hisuian Growlithe, he didn't get caught and continued to attack us. Seems like a hard learning experience that not all Pokemon can be caught without fighting them first. We're then treated to some new sleeping animations. Chimchar lies down on his belly to rest, and he's most likely waking up now because it's morning. His buddy is still sleeping though. Feels man. Look at how cute Shink sleeps! Look at it! Luxio protects them by sleeping standing up. Adorable. Starly flies away when it notices a trainer getting too close. We already knew this, but this is the first time they've officially showcased how it works. Okay, something here is not like the others. Yep, this lone tree on the left. I have no idea why such a different tree is in the area. It's even a completely different color of green compared to the other vegetation. It almost has to be a collectible in some way, right? Our player character seems to always fall in the same way. He gets knocked backwards, this is how he falls. Yet, even when he's running away from an attack facing forward, he falls forward, but is animated falling as if he got hit to go backwards again. Interesting. Anyone else terrified of Snorlax for the first time? Just me? Oh, okay. Well, either way, notice when we dodge how our rideable Pokemon grays out. That's obvious, can't hop on them while performing another action. It makes sense. However, even more curious is how it's always not grayed out otherwise. So, we can hop on them in the middle of all this? It seems like we can also just do so with the plus button, similar to how we hopped on the Rotom bike in Sword and Shield. Awesome! I can already see people getting really creative in these Pokemon encounters. Oh look! More materials and items we have absolutely no idea what they are. The professor in the campsite has a neat little supply box here. Cute detail for a spot that's supposed to have supplies for you. By golly, they scaled Onix properly. Look at how big he is compared to the Drifblim and Lopunny. This is a huge one for me. You all know this is something I've wanted from Game Freak for too long. Properly sized Pokemon. Is it me, or are the male hair options better than the female ones? This here shows off more of the camera control that I mentioned earlier. I'm so stoked to say that it seems like we can actually move the camera fairly low for some great angles during gameplay. Huge step up from Sword and Shield, where the camera only moved up and down 2 centimeters. Also, there's some pink material here in our inventory. Looks cool. Even more great news for controllable camera fanatics, aka anyone who's played a video game in the last 2 decades, we can still control the camera indoors. This angle we see as we walk through the Galaxy building can only be possible from our own input, as it's not exactly a prime angle to view the walkway. This ranking system is our Pokédex level. It looks like there's 10 levels in total, so it seems like a fairly lengthy game to me. This scene of us running through a cave, out to the ruins, reveals something very fascinating that you're likely to miss. Towards the beginning of the clip, there's a mysterious writing on the cave wall. I'm intrigued as to how much relevance this has to the story and setting of Legends Arceus. When riding on Weirdeer, we can traverse slanted slopes. That's exciting, and also makes me wonder how much our character can traverse them on their own as well. There's also some interesting material here on the side of the hill. As usual, I wonder what it could be. One of my favorite shots in the trailer is the seamless transition of riding Basculegion to landing on the beach. Look at how our character splashes through the beach waves to run up to shore. There's also some cool things in the background. For one, this draw distance is insane. We can see a Shellos in the top left a whole island away. We can also see that red shell material I mentioned earlier. To the right, there's a pink material in the water. I don't think this is a Pokemon, but correct me if I'm wrong. We can also see a box on an island to the right. Can we interact with it somehow? It's giving me Breath of the Wild vibes. On top of the large berry tree in the central island, there's also some plants that stick out. They're most likely collectible material as well. Now, we get a closer look at the volcano area. It's right around the pincer rocks out in the water, and my goodness, look at this texture on the volcano. It almost looks like hieroglyphics or something. So cool. Perhaps there's more to this area than we can see right now. Anyone else love this animation for Water Pulse? Speaking of, Frenzied Noble Pokemon have 2 health bars, one for battles and the boss gauge. The boss gauge is the only one we really need to lower, and defeating the nobles in battle helps to tire them out so we can throw more bombs at them without them attacking us as much. I'm excited to see no battle boss runs for Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now for my favorite part of the trailer, our character playing with Oshawott! Not only is it exciting to be able to play with our Pokemon, even all 6 at once, but our character is actually emoting while doing so for the first time ever in a Pokemon video game. Look at how happy he is. This is my exact face I'll be making when I'm playing with Oshawott. Another great shot is this scene of us using Gyarados in battle. My boy is finally big like he's supposed to be. I'll actually want to use him now instead of hiding him away, scared of seeing him shrunk down in size to lose all his intimidation. Once again, we're playing with one of my favorite starters, Piplup, this time with our entire team out. Boy, I can't wait for this game. It's here by the end of the month. Gosh, did you guys enjoy all that? If you did, I really hope you'll stick around the channel for more fun gaming analysis. In the meantime, let me know if I missed anything down in the comments. Or just tell me how excited or unexcited you are for Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's right around the corner. Until next time, I've been JotoJohnny. Peace out.